whispers, saw it in glances, felt it in the hush that fell when I entered a room. I'm Chloe Reynolds, 31, and until last week I was the black sheep in a family that worshipped Ivy League diplomas, big titles, and Hamptons beach houses. The day everything changed began like any other Christmas at the Reynolds brownstone in Boston. I squeezed my battered Subaru into a spot between my brother Ethan's Porsche and my sister Vivian's Mercedes SUV. The contrast was obvious, but so was everything about my family. I checked my reflection in the windshield, adjusting my navy cardigan. No designer logos, no flashy jewelry, just me holding a homemade chocolate tart, and years of quiet resolve. Climbing the stone steps, I heard the usual chatter, full of deals and success stories. Vivian had closed a big account. Ethan's fintech app was making headlines. Did you hear about Cousin Julia's TED Talk? I took a breath and stepped inside. The foyer gleamed as always, crystal sconces, grand staircase, family portraits, but none of me. Chloe, my mother called from the kitchen, her tone more declaration than greeting. You're late. Again. It's no traffic, I said, though I'd actually been in a meeting that could change everything. But they didn't need to know that, not yet. In the kitchen, my mother orchestrated dishes in her Armani dress. She barely looked at my tart. Oh, dessert, put it with the others. Vivian appeared, swirling her wine. Still doing that freelance thing? She asked, half smirking. I smiled. Something like that. Timing was everything. Unjust in the firm's history. Congratulations, I said honestly. Vivian had always been sharp, and always needed everyone to know it. Ethan strolled in next, wearing his CEO of a hot startup persona like expensive cologne. Hey Chloe, he said, eyeing my cardigan. What, Old Navy on clearance? Target actually, I said. His grin widened. If only he knew what my success really cost. Not in money, but in sleepless nights, relentless risk, and sacrifices no one saw. Dad was in his study, naturally the chamber where family fortunes were managed and disappointments quietly noted. He glanced up. Chloe, he said, my name heavy with quiet judgment. Glad you could spare time for family. I nodded, saying nothing. How could I explain? I'd just signed a deal that dwarfed his annual salary, that while they assumed I scraped by freelancing, I'd built something revolutionary. The dining room gleamed like a museum of victories. Awards, diplomas, photos everywhere. Vivian's MBA graduation. Ethan's Forbes profile. Mom's charity events. The empty gaps told the story of where I ranked. Dinner began the usual parade of achievements. Promotions, mergers, triumphs displayed like fine silver. Vivian's firm just landed the Hartwell account, Mom announced. Over $2 billion in assets. Ethan's app hit the App Store's top 10, Dad added. Then the hush, the moment they'd usually skip me. But this time, Aunt Lillian, eternal pot stirrer, turned her gaze my way. And you, Chloe, still freelancing? Silence fell, curious glances, some pitying. Oh, you know, I said calmly, just working. A shame, Aunt Lillian whispered. She had such promise. I took a sip of water, hiding my smile. Tomorrow, Forbes would reveal its 30 under 30 list. And my freelance thing? An AI company changing quantum computing. That whatever it is you do had quietly caught the attention of every major tech giant, from Silicon Valley to New York. Remember when she turned down Harvard Business School? Uncle Robert said. Could have had a real career. At least she's independent, Mom added, faint praise at best. Even if it's modest. Dad cleared his throat. Well, not everyone can be an achiever. Someone has to do regular jobs. I focused on my turkey, letting their words roll past. In 12 hours, their entire image of me would vanish. The Forbes article wasn't just news, it was a revelation. My company, built in secret for 5 years, was now valued at $4,200,000,000, 0 cents. My hidden net worth would make Vivian's partner's salary look like spare change. Anyone catch the market forecast for next quarter? Ethan said, eager to change the subject. My app's perfectly positioned. Let them talk, let them bask in their victories, let them think I was the family disappointment one last time. Tomorrow would end it. Suddenly Vivian turned to me. Chloe, you should talk to Mark at my firm. He's hiring entry level. Could be a good fresh start. I thought of the email from Mark, practically begging for a partnership. Thanks, I said smoothly. I'll consider it. Dinner carried on with polite jabs and subtle digs. Each comment reminded me of the Forbes photo shoot hidden on my phone, headlines waiting to go live. As dessert arrived, store-bought tarts, naturally, Dad raised his glass. To the Reynolds legacy, to ambition and success. Glasses clinked. I held mine steady, knowing by tomorrow they'd understand what ambition truly meant. Maybe next year will be Chloe's year, Aunt Lillian said, half kind, half condescending. I caught my reflection in a silver tray, smiling. Maybe it will. Pass the turkey? 5 years ago, I'd sat in a tiny studio, surrounded by coffee cups and code. That's where it all began. Not in Harvard or Wall Street, but in a room my family would have been embarrassed to see. If you're ready to see the moment Chloe's secret shatters her family's world and discover how far her empire reaches, make sure to subscribe and join me for the next chapter. My laptop chimed, another email from my mother. Darling, Ethan's hosting a tech networking event next week. Perfect chance for you to find a real job. And please, dress appropriately if you come. I closed the message, focusing on lines of quantum code running across my screen. What they didn't know was I'd discovered something transformative in quantum computing. Work that could change everything. It started during a job my family dismissed as basic freelancing. In truth, I led a small research team developing quantum algorithms that could revolutionize data processing. While Vivian collected promotions and Ethan chased startup fame, I quietly filed patents that would soon be priceless. Your code's incredible, Raj, my first hire said one late night. Why not tell your family what you're really building? I remembered my father's words when I declined Harvard. You're choosing mediocrity, Chloe. That's not the Reynolds way. They wouldn't understand, I replied, typing faster. Not yet. The breakthrough arrived at 3 a.m. while my family slept in the brownstone. I cracked a quantum problem that had stumped experts for decades. My hands shook as I checked my results. The next morning, as Mom texted about Vivian's new promotion, I met with investors. This is revolutionary, one said, pushing a term sheet my way. We want in. I accepted minimal funding, keeping control. I built my company quietly, picked my team carefully. We worked in a plain office outside Boston, far from Ethan's flashy parties. Every holiday was the same. Thanksgiving, Christmas, parades of family victories I was never part of. Still freelancing? Ethan would tease, while my company quietly acquired his competitors. Mom suggested college again as I signed million-dollar contracts. I lived simply, driving my Subaru, wearing ordinary clothes. Every dollar went back into the business. When Vivian bought her new Benz, I was buying server farms. When Ethan celebrated app downloads, I built tech that would eclipse his. Then the government came calling. Our quantum breakthroughs had military potential, and Washington was paying attention. I sat in high-security meetings in D.C. wearing plainclothes discussing decisions that could reshape national security. Sorry I missed your charity gala, Mom, I'd say over the phone while signing classified papers. Oh, darling, answering phones must be exhausting, she'd reply. Meanwhile, my company grew quietly. No press releases, no social media, just solid innovation and relentless progress. My team understood the mission. We weren't building for headlines, we were building to transform industries. One Tuesday, Raj, my CFO, walked in holding a valuation report. Chloe, he said, eyes wide, we've crossed $4 billion. I stared at the numbers while my phone buzzed with a text from Vivian, bragging about her new Cape Cod summer house. The irony never escaped me. Then a call came from a Forbes reporter. Your quantum computing breakthroughs are remarkable, she said. We'd like to feature you on the 30 under 30 list. I hesitated. This would change everything. No more hiding. We've confirmed your company's valuation, she added. This is huge. That same evening, I sat at another Reynolds family dinner. Mom gushed over Ethan's $10 million 0 cents funding round. I thought about my last defense contract, worth $500 million. 0 cents. Maybe Chloe could invest, Uncle Robert joked. If she saved anything from her little job. I excused myself for a call. The Pentagon again. Another billion-dollar project. Through the window, I saw my family laughing, celebrating their visible victories, oblivious to what was coming. The Forbes photo shoot felt surreal. They really don't know? The photographer asked. They will, I said, picturing Thanksgiving. The week before the feature, I sat in my real office, atop a building I owned, watching quantum systems hum across screens. My assistant knocked softly. Your mother called. She says, try to be on time for Thanksgiving. I stared out at Boston, knowing the world already ran on tech my family believed was just freelancing. Tell her I'll be there, I said. The day before Christmas Eve, my team locked in final plans for the Forbes article. It would go live at 6 a.m. Your phone's going to explode, my PR director said. Everyone will want to know how you built this in secret. I thought of every family dinner where I sat silent, letting them assume I was failing, even as I closed billion-dollar deals. That evening, I parked my Subaru outside my quiet townhouse, the place I used when not at my penthouse downtown. A text popped up from Vivian. Wearing something nice tomorrow? Mom invited important guests. I looked at my closet, where designer clothes still hung untouched. Tomorrow, I'd wear my usual simple outfit. Let them see that real success didn't need luxury labels. The Forbes piece was perfect. Clean photos, facts laid out clearly, my net worth, my company's breakthroughs, all finally in the open. As I went to bed, I thought how everything would change. Whispers would stop. Condescension would vanish. Shock would replace pity. Mostly I pictured their faces when they learned that while they sought applause, I was quietly building an empire. Christmas morning came with a ping at 6 a.m. Forbes was live. I lay there, knowing the world had shifted. My team was already sending updates. Article trending, shares spiking. I made coffee and waited. Ethan called first at 6:13. I let it ring. Vivian called 3 times. Then Mom, Dad, Aunt Lillian. Chloe, is this true? Uncle Robert texted. Call me. I silenced my phone and chose my navy sweater and slacks. Today they'd learn power didn't need designer tags. By noon, news outlets were everywhere. CNBC headlined me as tech's hidden billionaire. The Wall Street Journal called me the secret force reshaping global tech. Bloomberg just ran a headline, Meet Chloe Reynolds, the secret genius behind modern quantum computing. My PR director called, sounding breathless. It's chaos. Every network wants an interview. The Pentagon's making statements about your contracts. If you were public, your stock would be soaring. I smiled. Let's focus on Christmas dinner first. When I pulled up to my parents' Boston brownstone at 2 p.m., things looked different. Security guards, hired by my suddenly wary father after reporters showed up, were stationed outside. My old Subaru caused a stir until they checked their list. Ms. Reynolds, one guard said, standing straighter. Sorry, didn't recognize the car. The driveway overflowed with luxury cars. My Subaru wasn't modest anymore. It was a statement. Inside, the house buzzed. Mom opened the door before I could knock, hair perfect, hands trembling. Chloe, she whispered, staring like she was seeing me for the first time. Why didn't you tell us? I stepped in. The foyer was packed with relatives who'd arrived early for the spectacle. Usual holiday chatter vanished into silence. Dad emerged, clutching his tablet showing the Forbes piece. He opened his mouth, shut it, then managed, 4 billion? Give or take, I said quietly. Markets fluctuate. Vivian sat on the stairs, immaculate but pale. Her phone kept buzzing. Probably colleagues realizing who her sister really was. Ethan hovered by the fireplace, gripping his glass. Forbes had mentioned some of my acquisitions, including competitors of Ethan's startups. But you drive a Subaru, Aunt Lillian stammered. as if that was the biggest shock. It's reliable, I said, carrying my tart into the kitchen. No one dared mention store-bought being better. Mom followed, voice breaking. All this time, why didn't you say anything? I set my tart down. Would it have mattered, I said. When I turned down Harvard, you'd already decided who I was. And family should believe in you without needing proof. The dining room fell quiet as everyone took their seats. The usual family hierarchy had crumbled. Vivian's partner's salary, Ethan's startup buzz, even Dad's corporate empire seemed small now. Uncle Robert cleared his throat. Well, this is unexpected. Is it? I asked, looking around the table. Or did none of you ever expect it from me? Dad stood up, wine glass in hand, ready for his usual holiday toast. But for once, his voice wavered. To the Reynolds family legacy, he began, then paused. The words achievement and excellence seemed stuck as he met my eyes. To quiet revolutions, I said, lifting my water glass. To building rather than boasting. To success that doesn't need an audience. Mom fainted right then, collapsing as someone's phone lit up with the headline, Reynolds Quantum Solutions gets $10 billion 0 cents buyout offer. As family rushed to help her, I calmly cut my turkey. Pass the cranberry sauce, I said to Ethan, who sat frozen, phone in hand. You bought Comtech last month? He whispered. That was you? Among others, I nodded. Your pitch was good, just not quite what we needed. Vivian finally spoke. Mark from my firm's been trying to reach you all day. I know, I said. We're restructuring his company's entire digital systems. The contract's worth more than your firm's annual revenue. Dad returned, helping Mom into her chair. Their faces had lost their usual certainty. Why now? Dad asked quietly. Why reveal this today? I looked at the family photos that had never included me. Because today isn't about showing off success, I said softly. It's about revealing the truth. That real achievement doesn't always come in designer suits or luxury cars. Sometimes it works quietly and changes the world without applause. Aunt Lillian dabbed her eyes. We've been awful. No, I said gently. You've been blind. That's different. My phone buzzed. The president's office requested a meeting about national security. I declined politely. Today was for family. I have a confession, I said, looking at my mother. That freelance tech job you thought I had? I owned the company. That small office you never visited? It's one of 30 around the world. That simple life you mocked? It was my choice. Mom's hands shook as she reached for her glass of water. All those holidays I missed? I was in Pentagon meetings, Mom, or signing contracts in Tokyo, or developing technology that could help cure diseases. A thick silence settled over the table. Years of assumptions and judgments collapsed, all at once. What happens now? Ethan asked softly, his voice smaller than I'd ever heard it. I finally let myself smile. Now we eat turkey. Then I added, and maybe we start seeing people for who they truly are, not who we assume they are. Dad stood again, this time without his usual wine glass. Chloe, I know, I said gently, pass the turkey. As dishes moved around the table and plates were filled, I felt the air shift. The so-called family disappointment had become the revelation. The quiet daughter had become the leader. The supposed failure had become the unexpected triumph. But more importantly, the masks were gone, the pretending had fallen away, and maybe for the first time, real family could begin. My phone buzzed one last time with a headline. Reynolds Quantum Solutions unveils breakthrough cancer detection technology. I smiled, reaching for the mashed potatoes. Anyone want to hear what I really do for a living? And for the first time in years, my family truly listened. If my story spoke to you, I'd love your support. Drop a comment and tell me what you'd say if you were at my family's table today. Share your thoughts, for advice, for anyone fighting to build their dreams quietly. Remember, true success doesn't need applause. It's okay to rise in silence. Believe in yourself even when others don't. Let's keep building revolutions, one quiet step at a time.